everything is in the cloud. Like, obviously, there's still some desktop softwares out there. Just
get yourself a suite for that one.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember one. I've got to tell you. But yeah, no, everything needs to be in the cloud. Literally.
Now, we've already said that accountants like technology.
Yeah.
There is still quite a large part that denies the future and the changes necessary. And that's true across all industries. So I think that's always the problem, where you speak to someone and go, I have identified your problem. I've told you what your problem is, and you agree, but you don't see there's a solution and how to move forward. I don't just mean in my space.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you talk to people and just go, but you could do this and your life would be easier.
Exactly.
And they're like, oh, it's not really that difficult. It's like, but you've just accepted it for the last 20 years. You've done it like this. It just means with the technology available then, it was right.
Yeah.
But
now we've moved on.
Yeah, we've moved on. Maybe you should open your eyes and have a look and ask the question again and see what answers there are. And you might find there's a different answer to that question.
Well, I think more education that isn't wrapped up in a sales pitch. I think there's a lot of people out there that hide their like secret sauce, if you like, behind what they do. Yeah. Whether it is funding, whether it is forecasting. I think the more you educate people and position yourself as a overused term, but trusted advisor, if you like, is that I think that naturally magnetizes you into those people. We see that a lot, and I mentioned her a lot, but Rachel Harris, Kaylee at Teleroo, there's a number of people in the industry that just give out a lot of content without necessarily asking for anything back.
Yeah, definitely.
And they've done incredibly well with that. And I think there's a lot of people out there that have a lot in the tank. You know, there's tons of people. Phil Hobden, there's loads of people in the space that have so much knowledge that they give out. I don't think people are doing that enough.
So maybe like the one thing I'd probably change, I think what you tend to do is like, you know, people will come to this event and they'll learn all about like the accounting industry, but what other events and other industry events are going on that are actually maybe adjacent, but we can learn from?
That's a good point.
So, you know, I mean, I used to be in the payments industry, you know, like that kind of for a good chunk of my career before Xero, and you know I sort of hopped industry. And one of the things that I did was like I said, well, what did we learn from that industry that maybe like we're thinking about with, you know, in the accounting space, like how they think about things, like reinventing business models was a massive thing at American Express. You know, when they said like rather than just be a closed loop payment network, let's open that up and license the American Express product. So like, you know, like taking that idea and applying that to the accounting space is like really interesting.
It makes sense as well.
So one thing I'd say is like, let's not be so focused on like what we're doing as an accounting, bookkeeping industry solely. Let's think about other industries and other sectors and what can we learn and apply to what we do. And even just starting with adjacent industries like payments is probably a good start.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think selfishly, I guess tech adoption, right? More and more firms. I do feel like I'm surprised the level at which accountants are sometimes scared to tell their clients how they are going to do their job.
Yep.
If you hired a builder, like you wouldn't tell him how to lay bricks.
Yep.
But I feel like with accountants quite often are scared to say to clients, look, this is how we do it. This is our process.
Yep.
These are the steps to follow. And I do think that like, I mean, I just know from my experience with my own accountant, if my accountant tells me to do something, I try to do it without thinking. If they ask me, do you want to do this? What do you think about that? Then I suddenly start thinking and take the lazy option.
Yep.
So I think I would like to see accountants be a bit more deliberate and forceful with the way, like decide how they want to run their practice and then go out and tell their clients that's how they're running.
This is how we're doing it.
Yeah.
I think a little bit more transparency. I feel, especially in the world that we're living at the moment, I do feel the industry sort of, well, certainly from accounting, pushes us down a route.
Yeah.
Again, this digital route, that there's nothing wrong with digital. It's great and it helps be productive, but there's still so many people out there, especially I might say, I know people might not like to hear this, but in the 50s and 60s, even the 40s, don't want the digital side. And it'd be nice if there was more out there for those people so they're not falling behind and feeling, you know, what am I going to do when they're going to be a particular software provider?
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit hard for those people. I think they're stuck. And it'd be nice if they had more. I don't quite know what, but that's where we hit on the sort of the CSV, the Excel side. For people who didn't have an OCR converter and didn't have all bank feeds and online, that would be nice for the profession.
Yeah.
I think these events give people a lot to find out. There's so much out there that you don't know about?
It's more the image, really. You know, that we do have a certain image. You know, you walk into a room, people say, what do? You say you're an accountant, and their eyes glaze over.
That is true.
It's very true.
Yeah.
But I mean, you compare, and it is not the image that is portrayed out in the world. So it's more our image.
Back home, I suppose it would be to introduce more tech, to give us more abilities. So think of technology as an enabler. We're lacking that right now, okay? We can't offer the level of services that you guys in the UK have, and it puts our clients at a disadvantage more so than anything else. The other thing I'd like to change is a move away from compliance, if I'm allowed to say that, and start thinking of the holistic approach.
Yep.
How do we help our business owners on their business, not the business itself? What does the business own? So my first conversation with a new client is, what's your whys in all of this? What do you want out of this?
Yep.
And that then drives the rest.
Where do I start?
Okay.
I think my biggest frustration with our industry is vendors and apps that continue to sell a product and they sell it because of the benefits they think it brings.
Yes,
not
without
because
asking
of
the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is my biggest frustration. Time and time again, you hear these pitches, you see these webinars, you see the marketing, and it's like, we will help save you time. Well, great, but who said I need to save time doing that task? Time isn't the issue. It's the complexity, it's the amount of time it takes to train the people, whatever it is. Time itself of completing that task is not the issue.
Yeah.
And that to me is the most frustrating thing. And it's something that I've really tried to avoid in our sales methodology and the way that we talk to customers from a Teleroo perspective. Is how do we understand what you're really struggling with? And that's not just from a payments perspective. That's what are you struggling with as a firm? What are your goals as a firm? If you tell me that your goal as a firm is to make an extra £1 million this year, right, okay, how are we going to do that? Okay, well, we're going to do it by increasing revenue per client. Okay, well, if payments were to come into that, and instead of you just doing your standard bookkeeping package that you offer this client, we could turn that into a fully outsourced finance package, of which Teleroo is part of, and we could 4x the revenue from that client. How many clients do we need to do that to get you to that revenue? And that's the value that Teleroo brings to you. It's not, we can save you time making payments, right? And those are the conversations that I'm having, and those are the conversations that get me excited. And then when we catch up, it's not, how many clients have you added to Teleroo, Mr. Accountant? It's how many clients have you upsold your new package to? How's that going? How are you finding that? How are clients responding to that? How are you messaging that? Let's have a catch up with your marketing team. And we end up getting involved in lots of conversations that aren't typically a Teleroo based conversation, but they're the conversations where we really make a difference, right? Because the reality is, if you just want to sign up and make 5 payments for a client, you can do that without needing a call with me, right? You can sign up and use it forward. Yeah. That's my biggest frustration.
I think that we have to respect the fact that it's not just about spending money. So spending money doesn't make a better product. And I mean that by in terms of how we market it and promote it. Spending money doesn't make something like what makes something better is the team and the people. And that's where the best technology succeeds in this space, where they're people focused. Yeah. They might have a small stand, but behind them, they've got an incredible team that look after the customers to help you as an accountant look after your clients better. So I want to see more of that. And that goes back to my point about Accountex, right? Like, let's have more shows where people can't just spend £1 bazillion. And actually, then maybe we can focus more on what's important.
I think there's a big divide with accountants and bookkeepers.
Yes.
Which there doesn't need to be. So I'm a bookkeeper. I'm a member of the ICB Advisory Council. And I think sometimes bookkeepers have a bit of a chip on their shoulder and they get put down by accountants, or they allow themselves to be in that situation. And I think accountants maybe need to realise that there are some really good, well-qualified bookkeepers out there. And without that good, solid bookkeeping, it's much harder for accountants to do the work.
Agreed.
And I think we need to work more together in partnership.
I think it could be a bit more streamlined in terms of HMRC.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
I'd like to say that's a controversial, but yeah, it's true.
After this, we'll wander over to HMRC themselves.